Hi, welcome to our next junior relations video. In this video, we're going to introduce parabolas. So far, all of our efforts have been put into straight line graphs. Straight line graphs have the form of y equal to mx plus c, or are based on. The formulas are based on this rule. And we've talked about positive gradients, we've talked about negative gradients, we've talked about horizontal and vertical lines. We've shown you how to draw these things. Well, now our attention turns to a different type of graph. Before that, let's just reintroduce the word quadratic. A quadratic is an expression that has the highest power of x squared. So here are 5 quick examples, once again, to test your remembering of quadratics. The first example, 4x minus 5. Actually, that's not a quadratic because it doesn't have an x squared in it. Actually, it's what we just spoke about. It's the mx plus or minus c. So it's a linear function, so it's not a quadratic. The second example, x squared plus 6x plus 9, yes, that's a quadratic. The third example, don't worry about the 4 out the front, 4x squared, it's still got a power of 2, so yes, that's a quadratic. The fourth example, that's still a quadratic. The x squared doesn't have to be at the front, and it can be a negative if it wants. The fifth example is not a quadratic, because even though it has a x to the power of 2, a 5x squared, the highest power is actually an x to the power of 3. So it's not a quadratic, it's actually called a cubic. Right, now quadratic expressions produce a graph called a parabola. Parabolas are one of the most useful graphs created by humans and have allowed us to develop a huge amount of technology thus far. This is what a parabola graph looks like. In the next video, our last video of this series, you're going to learn how to draw them. So, parabolas have allowed us to create all sorts of amazing buildings over the years. They've allowed us to analyze and do all sorts of complicated projectile motion. They've allowed us to do amazing entertainment, create awesome logos, and probably one of the most vital parts of our world today is parabolas have allowed us to develop complicated technology and communication skills. Also used in future planning. I believe this might be already, this building submitted the consent, and hopefully we might see it in the next 10 or so years being built. All right, so that's what quadratics are all about. It's expression with the highest power of x squared, and they produce graphs called parabolas. So in our last video, which is coming up next, you'll be able to learn how to draw these things. Hey, thanks very much for watching.